How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Now, as we know, the preliminary injunction is coming up. It's, well, the court case for the preliminary injunction from the FTC. And, well, this could go one of two ways. At the moment, the ball is in Microsoft's court. The FTC has a weak argument. And as we're going to see in a minute, the one new piece of information that they do have is so far-fetched that even you as an onlooker have to turn around and say just wow. But yeah, it is crazy. And so in this video I just wanted to go over some of the things that could happen if the FTC won, or what would happen if Microsoft won, the preliminary injunction got denied, and what that would mean and what will happen going forward. So before I get into that, I do want to just touch on the camera, because I've seen a couple of comments in by people in the comment section regarding the camera not being up to par and it bothering them. At the moment, I'm trying to get an Elgato 1080p 60 FPS camera. The one I've got at the moment is a Logitech one. It is 1080p 30 or 720p 60. 720p 60, at least it runs smoother, but it does at the end of the day have a much lower resolution, and if you're watching it on 4K it's gonna look even worse. So at the moment this is the best I've got, and I can't really do anything about it, but I am looking to get a better camera ASAP. With that out of the way, let's get on with the actual content. So FTC, let's look at the worst case scenario right now, and if the FTC wins and they get their preliminary injunction, it's gonna be an uphill battle for Microsoft. It's not the end of the road. Microsoft can then appeal, but it's gonna go at least until January, February next year before even the first, CMC is heard. So it's gonna be a very long road at that point, to the point where Microsoft may consider just pulling the plug, paying the $3 billion and saying that's pretty much where we're gonna go, especially after their presentation on the Xbox showcase. It's clear that they don't really need Activision Blizzard to get where they need to go. Their showcase was so good and so promising that I think they're actually okay on their own. And if you look at Activision, the way they are getting absolutely destroyed right now with the whole leave our kids alone drama that's going on between Activision, the Call of Duty streamers, and the LGBTQ community, they are getting absolutely destroyed. Their share prices are dropping, although that doesn't really matter for Activision because they're still bound by that $95 per share price. But the popularity of Call of Duty is going straight down, and this is going to have at least some bearing on Microsoft's thought process on whether they want to continue or not. But that's for another video. But on this video we're looking at the FTC, and if they win, yeah, it's pretty much going to be either game over, or it's going to be a long road ahead for Microsoft to try and fight them in court to get the deal turned around. But this is not going to be something that's going to be fast-tracked. This is going to take anywhere from 6 months to a year down the road, and then if the decision goes their way, then happy days. But there is the alternative, which is the most likely cause, where Microsoft does win the decision to overturn the preliminary injunction and FTC gets denied. I mean, everything points towards the fact that they're going to get denied, so I don't think that there's really any chance of them actually coming on top. Now, there is one piece of news that we're going to get to in a bit, but before I do get to that, what would happen if Microsoft wins? So, if Microsoft win, the first thing that will happen is that they can close the deal. Instantly close the deal. In Microsoft's filings, if you remember from my previous video, you will have seen that they were talking about divestiture, and for those of you that don't know what divestiture actually is, it basically means that you separate the company from the parent company and it becomes its own standard independent company. And what that will mean is that Activision could be divestitured and becoming its own entity. Now, if we look up Mojang and Bethesda, I did a bit of reading and a bit of research. These companies actually operate individually. They don't, even though Microsoft owned them, they are their own independent company. They are still their own boss. Microsoft still kind of pulls the reins as like the Giga Chad, as you could say. As the Giga Chad, you could say. But in the end, they are independent, just like Bungie is with Sony. So Activision will, if Microsoft were to win the case and the preliminary injunction is denied, and then the FTC appeal, and then a year down the line or 18 months down the line, they do actually win the court case and they request a divestiture, that can happen, and Microsoft is more than willing to make that happen, as they've already said. I don't think Microsoft actually at this point cares, but right now they've got the opportunity to keep it all under one roof, and so that is what they're going to do. But if the FTC appeals and then goes, takes it even further, then, and if they win, well, at that point, the remedies that they will most likely ask for is a divestiture to keep the company separate. What will this mean in the grand scheme of things? Absolutely nothing. All the games will still be exclusive to Xbox if they want to. Microsoft will still make all the decisions. Matt Booty will still make all the decisions. But it doesn't really mean anything. The reality is that if Microsoft win the preliminary injunction, that's it. Even if the FTC wants to appeal, it's not going to mean anything. Now, there is the one thing that the FTC has over Microsoft. So let's have a look at that right now. As you can see here, it says the FTC has one piece of evidence against Microsoft saying PCs are not substitutable for consoles. The time a Microsoft executive said in an unrelated case that Xbox isn't a substitute for an iPad or an iPhone, Microsoft explains to the FTC that neither is a gaming PC. So the FTC is basically saying that a PC is not a high definition machine. It is, unlike the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, which is a high definition gaming machine, a PC with a 1490, 13900 Intel CPU, 64 gigabytes of RAM with, NVMe drives that are faster than the PS5's drives can do, is not high definition gaming. That is what the FTC is claiming. That is what the FTC is going with. You let me know in the comment section below what you think of that statement. Before we continue with the rest of the video, looking at the statistics from my previous video, 83% of you weren't subscribed. Now this could be because you haven't logged in or otherwise, but 83% hasn't. And if 50% of that actually subscribe, not only would we hit our 500 goal, where we're only about 30 away now, but we would also hit that 1000 goal as well. We would smash it straight through, and it would, it would mean the world to me personally, and I would be, eternally grateful to you. So if you haven't yet subscribed, do consider subscribing. It really does help the channel grow. Don't forget to drop a like. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and getting this video out to more people. So thanks so much. Back to the video. But we have this bit here with the redacted bit of information. The only evidence the FTC cites to support its position that PCs are not commercially reasonable alternatives is testimony from one Microsoft executive in an unrelated case that she does not view the Xbox console as a replacement substitute for an iPhone or an iPad. So the FTC is basically saying that Microsoft said that the Xbox isn't a substitute, the iPad isn't a substitute for an Xbox, or the iPhone isn't a substitute for an Xbox. So that means that the PCs are not a substitute for an Xbox. But the iPhone and iPad are both mobile devices, not gaming PCs. I mean, this is just stupid, right? This is just stupid. I mean, in what world, in what justification can you honestly go to a court case with that in mind? And over here we have Great Falcon asking, if you give controller support to mobile devices, then it's not going to be much different between the 4-year-old APUs in a console and modern phones. So Senjutsu, who's actually someone who's following the case quite closely as well, does accept controller support doesn't translate to identical game lineups. Consoles and PCs share much of the same game lineups and also share many of the most popular games, which Microsoft points out. And as you can see here, PC gaming. The FTC is likewise wrong to exclude PC gaming. I mean, first they excluded Nintendo by saying that Nintendo doesn't count because it doesn't really have a place in high definition gaming, and if you don't have a place in high definition gaming, you're not really worth even looking at. I mean, in what world do they think that Nintendo is irrelevant as a gaming platform? But the FTC believed that, which offered specifications and features comparable to or even greater than those offered by consoles. Of course it does. Consoles are pretty much, I mean, PCs are the master race. I know there's a meme saying that, but the reality is, can you compare the PS5 or the Series X to a 4090 13900 Intel CPU, 64 gigs of RAM? Can you honestly compare either console? I mean, even if you combine the two together, hell, GeForce Now with its 4080 option is better than the current gen consoles. Cloud gaming offers you better fidelity, better performance than current gen consoles, and the FTC is saying that PC gaming should be excluded. They are crazy. There is also substantial catalog overlap. In 2022, all but one of the top 30 Xbox titles and all but 3 of the top 30 PlayStation titles were available on PC, which basically means that it's actually in a place where, you know, PC gaming is absolutely relevant, right? It's relevant. But to say that, to turn around and say that Microsoft said iPads and iPhones aren't a substitute for an Xbox, and then to take that as a stretch to go and say that a PC isn't a substitute. I mean, you can plug your DualSense controller into the PC or an Xbox controller and it's pretty much the same thing, right? It's crazy. It's ludicrous. It makes no sense what they are thinking. But at this point, they are grasping for straws because they had to come up with anything and anything to, you know, when it comes to the court case, to have some form of, you know, justification as to why they're pursuing this and to provide a reason so the judge doesn't laugh them out of the ring. But that's where we are right now. So if Microsoft win, they can freely close. They don't even have to wait for the CMA. Now, here's the thing though, right? Here is the absolute catch. Microsoft does not want to close the deal in that way. They absolutely do not. And if the FTC and the CMA are smart, they will see this as an opportunity to offer remedies, come up with remedies that will basically work with Microsoft and get them to sign and push it through. If Microsoft closes the deal once the preliminary injunction, if the preliminary injunction gets rejected, and before the CMA's case is done, closes the deal, not only will this completely undermine the FTC, who does in fact at times do good work, right? They are there to protect the consumer, even if on this occasion they are doing the complete opposite. The CMA, who does do good work, even though they just passed iRobot for Amazon, making their smart home features pretty much a monopoly at this point, saying that, you know, Amazon, it's not in their best interest to hold this technology back, but it's in Microsoft's best interest to hold this technology back. It's not in Microsoft's best interest. It's really weird. I might actually do a separate video on the Amazon stuff, because if you look at the reasonings that the CMA gave in that case, it's so weird, because if you just replace the word Amazon with Microsoft, it's the same thing. but they didn't actually go down the route. But anyway, the point I'm making here is Microsoft undermining the CMA and undermining the FTC is a very, very bad thing. It's not good for the industry. It's not good for anything. And this case is being looked at by everyone. This has gone from being a video games trial, you know, a case about video games. This is the biggest tech case there's ever been. And companies from all around the world are watching this case to see how it unfolds. Because at the end of the day, this will dictate how future companies, big companies, actually approach this situation. If they want to buy another merge, if they want to buy a company or merge with a company, and actually understand what troubles are going to wait for them. And this could in fact actually hurt the industry. So it could actually hold back growth. It could prevent growth. This is something that we don't want to happen. But at the same time, if the CMA and FTC are just too pig-headed and not willing to compromise in any way, shape or form, Microsoft probably won't have any other option than to completely undermine them. But that is probably the last resort I can see Microsoft wanting to do. They would obviously, ideally, like to sit down with the CMA, sit down with the FTC, come up with solutions that work for them and, you know, for all parties involved. And if they can close it with, you know, both of them happy, then everyone goes home happy and the case is done. The CMA remains its authority, the FTC remains its authority, and there is no problem. But if they continue to say no, and Microsoft is allowed to just ignore them and close it, it completely undermines their legal authority. And when it comes to future cases that are basically going to be in similar situations, maybe not a $79 billion deal, but at the end of the day, even if it's like a $5 billion deal, companies will just look to ignore the CMA and the FTC. And as you can see, this has a knock-on effect and can lead to some pretty bad situations. As we know, big tech is very powerful and you don't want to give them as much power as they have. But here is hoping that after this preliminary injunction, whether it's passed or not, if it's not passed, then, you know, it is what it is and life will go on. But if it doesn't get passed and the FTC pretty much has no defense at this point, and Microsoft turn around to the FTC and say, look, let's sit down, let's discuss, come up with remedies that you're happy with so we can sign this deal. I'm really hoping that the FTC turn around, Lena Khan turns around and says, yes, let's sit down and get this over with. Because if she doesn't, and Microsoft turn around and close the deal over the FTC loses so much power. It loses so much reputation. It loses so much credibility, and it just gets undermined so badly that it will take years before it can regain a foothold. So this is a really, really big case. It's gone way beyond video games. This has become pretty much one of those precedent-defining moments. And the FTC can't be stupid here. Neither can the CMA for that matter. But as it's the CMA's preliminary injunction, if they lose it, they really have to look at themselves and say, look, we've lost this one. We're not going to win this one. We can request that they, you know, divest Activision Blizzard, keep them independent from Microsoft, but, you know, still under the same kind of umbrella, still owned by Microsoft Studios, but it's its own independent company. And in all honesty, that is how Mojang and Bethesda are, you know, ZeniMax are run currently. They're independent. They're not, even though they're owned by Microsoft, they are their own independent company that makes their own decisions. Exactly how Bungie is with Sony. And if, you know, the FTC is happy with that, Microsoft has already said that they're even willing to listen to that sort of request if it's put through as a remedy. So in my opinion, that should be what the FTC seeks if they lose. In all honesty, that should be pretty much what they seek, and just end of story and just, you know, end this drama with the whole case. But obviously they're not going to do that until they actually lose. That's it for this video. Again, as I said earlier, about 83% of you haven't subscribed. I still appreciate every single one of you who are watching. We are very close to that 500 as our first milestone, and then 1,000 subs for our second milestone, so I can start getting monetized and actually improving the quality of these streams. So hopefully we can get there. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're enjoying the content, even better, right? You want to be notified as soon as these contents go live. I am also now releasing reviews and other gaming news as well, so hopefully you'll enjoy that content too. But that's it for this video, and once we have further information, you know where to stop, right? Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell to step to the content I release, and I will see you in the next one. Remain legend.